We're off the boats. We're off the boats. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you guys ready? Are you ready? You want? No. You can hear him. Well, look how big this boat is. It's incredible.
I think we have the biggest boat.
We do. Yeah, this thing is by far massive. This is Juneau, guys. Not much to it, but it's gonna be beautiful. Look at that. Insane. We're going to the excursion. I've never done the excursion before.
I have.
Oh, you have,
not
yeah.
this excursion.
Yeah, yeah.
Excursion.
I've done 4 cruises before. This is my 4th, and this is the first time we're having an excursion. So we gotta follow a group. Normally we're the Wild Wild West. We just do whatever we want.
It's kind of hard to follow our group.
Yeah. Alright.
It's pretty small mountain in comparison to the others.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Alright, let's get in here. Where are you guys sitting?
I'm sitting next to Mommy.
Okay. Kate will sit next to Daddy. Alright, we ready? Are we ready? We ready? Are we ready? Cheese! Say
But he's on the head.
Do you like that?
We're going gold digging. Gold digging. Gonna go dig for that gold. Right in that hole right there.
You're special.
There you go. We're going in that hole. Oh, it's cold in here.
But I'm Brad. I'm going to walk you through the
Come right here, guys. Excuse me.
Right there as we go along. First thing, or some terms. The entrance to a mine is called the portal or the adit. Sides of the tunnel are the ribs, ceiling's the back. If you're working in the mine, your first stop is this tag in, tag out board. You tag in when you start your shift going in. When you're done, you tag out. It's how they track the miners. But if you notice on that board on the top row, it shows 4 and 5 still in the mine. If that was the case, the foreman would send some miners back in to see if those guys are hurt. But once the big mines were up and running here in Juneau, they were running 24 hours a day. So at that point, the town's running 24 hours a day. They would send some miners downtown, check the restaurants, check the bars. Somebody had a for dinner or a cold beer and they find you there, you're gonna be in trouble. If you found you asleep in the mine, you're gonna be in trouble. It shut things down while they're looking for those miners. But the other thing, miners looking for you, just finished an 8-hour shift. They're tired, they're looking to see if you're hurt. You're not hurt, you just scooped up. They might be talking to you about why you tagged out finishing your shift. Let's go ahead and walk forward in the tunnel.
It's consistently 32 degrees in here.
Yeah, that's
freeze.
I live in the dark, sir. Wow, isn't this cool? Isn't this really cool?
Compressed air line, a 2-inch water line. They consider the rails a utility. Now, most of the rails that were used in this mountain were salvaged and shipped up from California. Hard rock mining here in Juneau begins after the California Gold Rush, just before the Klondike Gold Rush. So a couple steps forward, and I'll point out this side. So this is your miner's porta potty. Dynamite box underneath. This is the genuine article. This was picked up on one of the tunnel levels down below us and brought up here on display. But it's built beefy because this was a portable toilet. So if you were working in one area, now you've shifted to another area, they'd load these up, reposition them for your miners. Point is, when you came in to do your shift in the mine, you didn't go back outside till the end of your shift until you were hurt. So they had the restroom facilities. They would have had a canteen with some water, maybe some bread to eat. But as things progressed in this mountain, we ended up with 15 levels of tunnel, over 150 miles of tunnel. So in those later years where you're working could be miles from where you came in, and you might not even be on the same level. Now in the later years, they had these underground mine phones in the tunnels, speaker on the front of the phone, there's no buttons to push, just pick up the receiver and you can start talking. But if you picked it up because you're not happy with the boss this morning, comparing notes with a buddy, Watch what you're saying, because when you pick that up, it broadcasts to every phone it's connected to, and there would be some phones in the mine office. So this is work related. Somebody's hurt, you're calling the outside, you have somebody come in here to get them out, or maybe you're running out of supplies. Get on the phone, see if somebody close to you has the supplies you need and can run them over. Let's go ahead and walk forward again.
Wow. It's all up and down here still, probably. Really cool. You can feel the drips.
So the three main types of cars that they use to get these things into the mine. This is a timber cart. This is what they use for stacking bracing timbers on, bring those into the mine. They had flatbeds. That was for bringing in supplies, but if there was an empty flatbed, you might have some miners hop up on that and dangle their legs over the side. They also had man carts. Now those had a dome metal roof, small doorway you duck into, and bench seats to ride to work. When you go down below, if you walk down from the general store on the right-hand side, there's a white man cart on the rails there if you wanted to snap a picture of it. Our smaller miners could even hop inside, get their picture taken looking out. Let's go ahead and walk forward again. So on the rails here, this is a battery-operated electric locomotive. The position that ran this, sat in this area, that position was called a trammer. Not very big, but you could haul 12 ore carts full of ore with this locomotive once the rails were in. The most common style of ore cart right here behind me, so we're going to walk forward and take a look at that. This is a rocker bottom ore cart, and the bin is balanced on two metal beams that run underneath it. There's a pedal between the wheels, and there's a pedal on the other side. You hit the pedal, dumps that direction. Now, if you didn't notice it on the way into the tunnel, when you exit, if you glance to your right, there's one of these on the hill all tipped over, show you what that would look like when they were dumping rock. Now, this is a 1.5 ton ore cart. That's about how much rock it would hold. The ore carts that were used in the Alaska gas snow coming out of the mine, 10-ton ore carts. So 6 to 7 times this size, double the length, about 3 times the height of the bin, shaped the same, worked the same, just a much bigger ore cart. Let's go ahead and walk to the top up here. Now up at the head of this tunnel is the site of the ore bin for this mine. The ore bin is a temporary place that they stored the ore before they brought it out, bring it down to the mill where they mill the rock. Milling is the mining term for crushing the rock. You're trying to separate the gold out of the rock. Now the ore bin is located above the concrete arch. The space up there, 50 feet by 50 feet by 150 feet deep, it will hold 8,000 tons of ore. Now where it came from, the rail system out of the mine is about 350 feet higher on the hillside. So up above us is where they would tip the carts. There was some initial rock crushing done. It then came down a chute inside the mountain into the ore bin. To get it out of the ore bin, they would open the gates. There's a roller here. There's other rollers in here. They're spinning and crunching down on the rock. The V-shaped notch slows down the amount of rock that's coming out. When this was in operation, this whole area was a conveyor belt. It's loading up with rock, and this decline heading back out of the tunnel, gravity fed the ore out of the tunnel. In the mill, the equipment that's crushing the rock is powered. The movement of the rock itself, use that hillside you climb in the bands to gravity feed the ore level to level. Now the time frame for all this, gold discovered in Juneau in 1880. It was 2 prospectors sent over from Sitka to look for gold and file claims if they found it here. One of the prospectors was Richard Harris, the other was Joe Juneau. So we know the town's name, but in the early years, town had not formally been named. Some of the miners were calling it Juneau, others were calling it Harrisburg after the other guy. Some were calling it Rockville after the hard rock mining that was going on here. Well, in the end, decided they'd put the town's name to a vote. Harris was out of town. Joe Juneau was buying drinks for the miners at the saloons. He got the votes and the town was named after him. But where they found gold is now called Gold Creek. That's the stream that runs to the saltwater just past downtown Juneau. Now the Tlingit name for that stream, that's our indigenous people in this area, was Xantakahini, means where the flounders gather, so there apparently was fishing going on there at some point. But they found it out by the saltwater. They then hiked up in the valley, panning as they went, finally looking in the hillside for where that gold in the stream is coming from. They found quartz with the gold veins in it. They took samples of the rock. They filed their claims there. 2 years to raise money. First hard rock mine starts 1882. That mine became the Perseverance Gold Mine. This mine, the Gasno, started in 1911. It was a merger of the Perseverance Mine with Sheep Creek Mine that had started a little later and just a bit south of us. There also were new owners of the mine at that time. They were raising investment money. Well, the investment money was mainly for 3 big projects. First of those, they had to run a 2-mile tunnel in the mountain to connect up those 2 mines. Second, hydroelectric power. Well, out above the Die-Pack Fish Hatchery, that's 2.5 miles off the road, up in the valley is the Salmon Creek Dam. 640 feet across, 175 feet high. It was a hand-poured concrete dam. About 200 men working on that for 2 years to do the dam and the power stations. But in 1913, you have hydroelectric power. This is the mine that did that for Juneau. Now the third project was to build the big mill. That's what they're going to talk about down below. Mill started processing rock in 1915, shut the mill down 7 years later. Their mistake. They knew they were building a big mill and it would crush a lot of rock. So they set this up where everything you blast head into the mill. Well, most of the gold and other minerals are in the quartz. There is gold in this green rock that we see in the tunnel, but not a lot of gold. And by milling so much of this, you're running up your expenses. They weren't getting enough gold to offset that. So 2 years with a small profit, but the last 4 years of their operation, they were in the hole by the time they paid interest to investors. Superintendent shut the mine down. They wrecked out the mill. He was selling all the equipment. He was going to convert this into a pulp mill operation where you're falling trees, grinding them up for making paper. Well, the investors were still owed money. They hired lawyers. They got the money. So it didn't complete that transition. So this mine sat dormant from 1922 till 1934 when it was purchased by the Alaska Juneau mine. So 3 big mines here in Juneau in this era. Gasno is one, Alaska Juneau, closer to the downtown area. It started in 1917. Alaska Juneau also had a large mill about halfway up the mountain above where the cruise ships are docked. That mill was still there when I was a kid. It caught fire in 1968 and burned. Later they wrecked out the mill. So all you'd see now is a little bit of concrete up on the hillside. The third large mine, Treadwell Mines over on Douglas Island. But the AJ was a profitable mine. They connected their tunnels into this mining operation, but they also built chutes. The green rock went down the chutes out to the beach, used to be stacked up in piles they called rock dumps. Well, in the early years, some of that rock was used in downtown Juneau. When you hike downtown, you're going to come to Front Street before you start climbing the hills. Front Street, because that's beachfront. So everything forward to that, to the docks, with the exception of new buildings, built on rock from the AJ mine. Now the AJ operated till 1944. Miners going off to fight in World War II is what closed them down. They thought they would reopen the mine after the war. Well, just before World War II was the Great Depression. And one of the things that happened during the Great Depression was passage of the Federal Gold Act. Set the price of gold in the United States at $35 an ounce. Initially, that was good for mining here. They'd only been getting $20 to $22 an ounce. But after 1934, every year, expenses going up, price of gold is fixed. After World War II was an inflation period, cost of all your supplies going way up, they looked at what it would take to reopen the mine. It didn't pencil out at $35 an ounce. Now that act remained in place all the way until the early 1970s. It was the Nixon administration that repealed that. So if any of you are following gold prices, a whole lot better than $35 an ounce. A couple of weeks ago, it touched on a new record high of $2,480. It was back above $2,400 this past week also. But the AJ, before they closed, they were doing like any mine. They're drilling, blasting, grinding up the rock and getting the gold, but they're also doing exploration. You've got to decide where you're going to tunnel next to stay on that gold. They had core samples with assay reports. They showed over 1 million ounces of gold remaining in the mountain when this shut down. I'm going to tell you about a mining company that looked at reopening things here when we come out of the side tunnel, but that's our next stop. Let's hike on down to that side. Here, this piece of equipment is called a mucker, and this is what was used to load up rock after blasting once these were available. I'm going to show you how it works. We don't pick up rock. I'm going to run it forward, pick up some water, throw it in the old cart, give you an idea how this would work. Let's go ahead and keep continuing down the tunnel here. But in mining, they call it the heading. Heading because you can see the drill holes. We're going to blast and we're heading that direction. Now there's 21 holes drilled, none more than 3 feet apart. That's what you can clear with dynamite in this rock. These holes are 8 feet deep. They were done with a jackleg drill like this. Now this 3, 3, and 3 pattern we see, that area is known as the burn. You pack all the holes with dynamite, but in the burn, just the 4 outside corners. 5 vacant holes left. It's room for the rock to move once you set off the explosion. So the dynamite goes off in the burn first, followed by the charges around that, then the charges around that. So your blast is blowing the rock inward, gravity drop it to the floor. Now once they packed the dynamite in back in this era, had to warn your miners, they didn't clear the mine during blasting. So they had these metal air whistles. It's got metal tubing, the notches where the sound would come out, hooked to the compressed air line, and with that air pressure, really loud in these tunnels. You'd hear it a long ways off. But that's the warning to your miners. We're going to be setting off dynamite. If you're not in a good area, best be moving. Person doing this would give it some time. They would backtrack in the tunnel. They'd set the dynamite off. Well, federal law in this era, even back then, half an hour or more before you come back into this area. When they were using fuses, if the fuse is slow burning for your dynamite, you're giving it plenty of time. You're also giving it time for the rock to come down after you've done your blasting. Now when they came back in, they've got a water hose off that 2-inch line. They're spraying lots of water, knocks the dust down. But the other thing, if there's dynamite that hadn't gone off, you're wetting that all down. Now as they're doing that, they're also inspecting the rock, and they're going to start off at least 6 feet back from where you blasted. Blast could have loosened things further back. What they're looking for are cracks or fissures in the rock, or maybe it's more obvious. We see a big chunk of rock on the back of the tunnel barely hanging on up there. We know we've got to get that down. So their next step was called barring the rock. And what they had were scaling bars, one here, bigger one here. It's got a chisel point, it's at an angle. But if there was a rock up above me, I'm going to wedge this up in there and I'm going to reef on it to bring it down. Crack or fissure, I would go all the way along that, see if there's any loose rock in there. Well, sometimes there's an area, we don't like the looks of it, but we couldn't break any rock out. Well, a small area, they would use these steel plates. And the circle you see is a piece of tubular metal. It has a slot going all the way down it. You drill the hole. As you drive that tubing in, it compresses. It's made of spring steel. It wants to expand back to its original shape, and it pinches tight against that hole. So once they're in like this, not going to get them out without blasting. Now this is an area, hold on to your hard hat. But if we look right up above us, a larger area, they would do these metal straps. And they're hammered so they're close fitting to the tunnel. You see a crack right in this area, but it's acting just like a metal beam to support that area of rock that's up above our heads. Now for the 2 drills here, they're both air-powered drills. These are 1930s vintage. There's an earlier version of the jackleg drill that used steam for generating the compressed air. Those came out in the late 1890s, not up here till after 1900. So in those early years, with hard rock mining starting here in 1882, they did the holes by hand. And so what they had were rock chisels. It's a metal chisel, it's beveled on both sides. When you finished your shift, you would pack these out. At the mine entrance, they had a bin, you'd toss them in there. They had a position called an edger, and they would sharpen these all up. So when you came in for your next shift, you're packing a couple sharp chisels. You get in against the rib of the tunnel, you have a mallet, and and I'm hitting it until there's a purchase there, it's not slipping, then two miners work together. One miner holds the chisel, the other one's got the sledgehammer. He hits it and you turn it. Hit it again and you turn it. The chisel point fracturing the rock to make the hole. Now when they did it this way, 2 to 3 feet and they were blasting. They blasted more frequently. You couldn't do an 8-foot hole like they did with the drills later. But the other part for this operation, lighting, not nearly this good. Lanterns and candles. They would pack in handfuls of long candles, melt wax, and stick the candles up. First headlamps for our hats, not till 1910. So you're doing this operation that's basically under candlelight. I don't know that we want to do this work, but if we had to, and you have a choice, I think you want to swing the hammer. This guy's hands are going to get rattled every time he hits it. They're doing this every day. They're pretty good at swinging the sledge, and they would be choking up going to the side like this. But you can see he misses or clips the end of this and catches me. My wrist and forearm are right there. That's going to hurt. So back to the drills. Two types of drills here. This one is called a stoper drill. If they're drilling vertically, just like they set it up, jackleg drill became the real workhorse for mining once these were out. So I'm going to demonstrate the jackleg drill. This is where the earplugs come in. So get those, pinch and twist the end of them, get them in, and then cover up your ears. And it is noisy, so do both of those. I'll be watching when it looks like everybody's got them in. I'm going to ask if they're ready to go. Give me the thumbs up. So you get faster drilling, but it's a whole lot noisier than when they were hitting on those rock chisels. What do you think our miners use for their ear protection? Yeah, most nothing. The books on mining talk about some of them tearing up strips of cloth and tying that around their heads. Well, you're listening to the blasting and the drilling. Not much doubt many of these miners had hearing loss. Now where we're at in the process, we drilled the holes, we blasted, the ore is on the floor, they call that the drift. Final phase in your mine, and they still call it this, is mucking. That's loading up all that material, get it into your carts where you're going to get it to the mill. They'll grind up the rock and get the gold for you. So that'll take us back to that piece of equipment down there, and I'll show you how that works. Except we're throwing the material to the back. Mining now, they use front-end loaders and dump trucks in the mines. They have filters for the exhaust, bigger tunnels, they're doing that. But air power is still the safest thing for your mines. There's nothing gasoline in underground mining. Exhaust fumes would poison your miners. So what did a miner make back in this era? In 1910, 1920, it was $100 to $120 a month. When the drills came out, drillers averaged better, $150 a month. Sometimes drillers could get production pay on top of their monthly salary. So an example of that, the 2-mile tunnel to connect the two mines that were part of this separation. They were paying extra for every foot over 300 feet a month. Took them 16 months to connect. They averaged over 500 feet a month. So they were working hard getting the bonus pay. But the other thing for this era, that's the fastest tunneling that had been done in underground mining. Now in 1910, they still have positions around for teamsters and blacksmiths. They used horses in the mines prior to having those electric locomotives, so those positions were still around. Now we have two active mines that are close to us. 45 miles north is the Kensington Gold Mine. Started 16 years ago. 6 years ago, they surpassed 1 million ounces of gold. They bring out about 100 to 120,000 ounces of gold a year. The second active mine is the Greens Creek Mine. That's owned by Hecla Mining. It's on Admiralty Island. So this is Douglas Island right across the channel. Behind that is Admiralty. A little bit of gold comes out of there, but they're mainly known as a silver mine. Last year, their production, 9.4 million ounces of silver. For the next 12 years, they'll be bringing out 9.5 to 10 million ounces of silver a year. Fifth largest silver mine in the world. Now, Greens Creek employs about 400 employees, about 380 with Kensington. There's shifts, so they aren't all working at the same time. 4 your underground miners. Typical shift, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Some of them 3.5 weeks on, 3 weeks off. But both of those mines have vacancies for miners. So maybe you did the tour thinking you might want to become a miner. There's not enough young adults getting into mining for the older ones that retire. So a couple things around town that they do with that. Local university has an orientation program for adults that are thinking about mining. They also have some specialized classes in electronics and mechanics if you're serious about going to work for the mine. Now, Kensington Mine also is piloting remote mining. So there's miners that work on their own site, but they're not underground. They're in a heated office, working, maybe sipping on a cup of coffee while they're doing this, but they're renting the equipment with joysticks and video display terminals. They do some of the drilling that way. Underground miner marks the X's on the wall, they come in with a remote drill. It's got bigger and faster drills than your miners can handle, and it punches the holes pretty quick. They do some of the mucking with remote equipment. And there's a production advantage to that because they clear the mine during blasting. So you've got several hours a day your miners are underground working. Well, with remote mucking, you can start up again pretty quick after the blast, start removing that material, get into your mill where you're extracting the gold. Now, these jobs, for the remote, not any more dangerous than any office job. Many of those doing it come from an IT background, not a mining background. Kensington is seeing in the future one way to address their vacancies, but in the future mining may be a hybrid. You have some of the miners that are working underground because you still need that, some of them above ground. At this point, they're all out at the mining site. Next step would be, maybe we're sitting on the beach in Hawaii running this equipment and get better recruitment that way. But interesting, I was out at Kensington yesterday, got to operate their remote bucket. It looks a little bit like a squash running over. The bucket's about the same, it's just not as tall, so it's easier to get in the tunnels. Two toggles, one's forward reverse, the other controls the bucket. So it's $1.5 million for that piece of equipment. But those are our two active mines. Back to this era, for the two mines that operated in the mountain, the Alaska Gasstone and the Alaska Juneau, they milled 100 million tons of rock. They got 3.5 million ounces of gold, 2.5 million ounces of silver. Back then, that was $96 million. That amount of metal today would be 6 to 7 billion in precious metals that came out of the mountain. The Treadwell mine over in Douglas, 3.3 million ounces of gold came out of there. That would be 4 billion. I mentioned 1 million ounces of gold remaining in this mountain. 1985, Echo Bay Mines looked at reopening a mine here. And they did their own portal, they found 5 good veins of gold. They started the process to get the permits to reopen the mine. Well, they worked on that for 9 years, didn't get the permits. Now, issues around it, in favor, would have been over 300 good paying jobs if we reopened the mine here. Things working against them. Close to downtown, close to one of the town's water supplies, and it's a bigger town now than it was back in this era. But the biggest thing, what are you gonna do with the tailings? That's all the ground up rock where you've extracted your minerals. If you're using chemicals, there's chemicals in the tailings. They were gonna build a big lake up in the Sheep Creek Valley where the entrance to this old mine was, dispose of the tailings there. Well, the concern were any breaks in containment that could end up in the Gaston Channel, and we have the fish runs that go through here. So Echo Bay switched gears, instrumental in opening the Kensington mine that I just talked about. But for Juneau, when the mines closed, it was a hit to the town, but we didn't become a ghost town. Mining had brought in the port facilities, steamships coming, Alaska Gas, and the hydroelectric power for the town. By the early 1900s, fishing was emerging as another industry here. 1910, they built a big cannery seafood processing plant downtown, operated 24 hours a day, and that was all the way through the time I was in high school. Later, they built one over on the Douglas side. 1906, Juneau became the capital of Alaska. Capital when this was Russian territory was in Sitka. And so, early 1900s, these were the two largest towns in Alaska. They were growing, capital moved over here. So that's what I have for you on this part of the tour. From what we're gonna do from here, we're gonna head on down, we'll hang up our hard hats. I have a white waste container out front, that's to get rid of the earplugs. Keep them if you want, but you don't need them down below. This was the noisy part of the tour. Down below, they're gonna talk about the milling operation, then you're gonna do your gold panning. When you get enough sand out of the pan, you're gonna see yellow flecks of gold on the bottom of your gold pan. Gold that came out of the mountain and streams around here, it's about 90% impurity. It's roughly 20 karat gold. It is more of a yellowish color than the gold we would normally think about. But if you thought that gold was buying you dinner tonight, well then you might be disappointed. It's what they call milled gold or flour gold. Most of it is not too big, most of it not too thick. I work down there, some of them you do feel them poke you in the finger when you pick them up and put them in the glass vial, so those are a little bit bigger. but you'll know how to pan for gold. Now, I don't know anybody that makes a living at it, but there's guys here that do it as a hobby. They'll take their gold pan, hike uphill on these streams. They also take a pry bar, move big boulders over time. Gold settles in those areas. That's where you look to find a gold nugget. If you find a gold nugget of any size worth more than the spot price of gold, you're going to sell that to a jeweler, not melt it down. But then, like I said, you'll know how to do your gold panning. Now, back in this era, when they were prospecting a stream, they would also look where there's a bend in the stream. Inside edge, water's moving slower, gold settles out in those areas. Well, if you're finding gold each time you scoop up some gravel, they would build a sluice box. Back then, built out of wood, U-shaped with slats on the bottom of that to catch the gold. It's at an angle with the stream water going through it. Now you're shoveling the gravel in there, and the stream is doing most of the work to get your gold. So you go through more materials, your chance to find more gold, but the best news, your hands aren't in the stream. All these streams around here, snow melt, glacier melt, about 35 degrees. These miners' hands would have been numb or hurting, panning for very long in the streams around here. You don't get that experience. They warm the water in the panning table, so it's probably going to be 60, 70 degrees as you do this, so your hands shouldn't get cold. So I hope you enjoyed this part of the tour. I hope you enjoy it down below. I'm going to hike on out with y'all to follow the back to be sure everybody's out. But thanks again for coming out.
Well, what do you think, sir?
Reminds me of the old oil and gas industry that I used to be a part of. Wearing a hard hat every day.
Oh, yeah. Yep, another life, huh?
That's the other one.
Crazy. Did you like that? Was that cool? Was that cool?
It looks like
Wow.
That's a mountain.
Yeah. Oh, right there, yeah.
It's only like...
All the locomotives.
Yeah, good.
How old do you think this concrete's been here for?
Look at that, Wade.
All those holes. It's pretty.
So we're talking about 60 years of work here. So let me just orient us a bit. When you guys came out of that tunnel with Brad, y'all were behind this building. Then you went down this road, you did a little switchback, and now we're parked right about here, okay? So between these two milling operations, there's 10 stories above us, 2 stories below us, and she extends 400 feet to y'all's left, way down there. So this was a very big milling operation. It was the biggest in the world at one point. So you just learned about mining, getting that rock out of the tunnel. Here, I'll do my best to explain how they got the gold, lead, and silver away from the rock. Okay, that's the milling process. So let me just run you guys through how they did it here. So 3.5 miles away in Sheep Creek Valley, this was the main access point to the mine. They did have a railroad station in Sheep Creek. They had a ball-wheel locomotive coming around the mountain there, and they would carry 40 10-ton ore carts down this rail. The first building they would encounter is called the coarse ore crushing plant. So here's a closer-up picture, and here's a blueprint of some of what went on the inside. So as those 40 cars come down, they're not all going to fit at once. They'll break them off into sections of 4, bring the first 4 cars in, and there they'll meet this machine called the revolving tipple. All this machine does is couple onto the ore carts and tips them upside down and sends that rock flying. So as that rock's flying down these chutes, this next level is called the jaw crushers. Sounds a little menacing. It was probably a little menacing. Think of a crocodile with his mouth wide open, just banging together 2 steel plates with teeth, breaking rock all day, all night, just getting that big rock to smaller rock. So the jaw crushers get it down to about 5-inch size pieces. From there, it goes down some more chutes, and then the bottom of this plant, they had gyratory crushers. Gyratory crushers are basically metal funnels. There's a screw or an auger in the middle. It'll spin and it'll rotate. So as that rock gets pressurized down in that funnel, it's just crushing it up even more. So now we're at about 2-inch size pieces, guys. From there, it falls 300 feet straight out of that plant to that 8,000-ton storage bin. This was at the back of the conveyor tunnel you guys were just inside of. It was kind of up a little bit. So from there, it goes over and under this level of roll crushers. Now, roll crushers are basically giant rolling pins. They turn like this. There's grooves and little teeth in there. And as that rock gets conveyed in the middle, it's just crushing it up even more. So now we're at about 1-inch size, guys. We're getting there. So this second level, this is where water was introduced to the milling. They did have shaker tables on this level. So shaker tables, the ones used here were designed by Arthur Wilfley. They did have a 1-inch mesh on top, ripples on the sides, and then a base on the bottom. So they spread out the rock, they pour water, the tables shake, and then they're catching gold, lead, and silver in those riffles based on weight. There was no chemicals used here at this mine or mill, no cyanide and no mercury, so anything they caught was basically hard rock mining, weight distribution, and water. So any gold caught on those tables was sent directly to the furnace. All the way on my right, way down there, they were melting their own gold bars here. So they would stamp their gold bars, one side with the name of the mine it came from, Alaska Juneau, and then the other side they put a serial number so they could track it and sell it, and then the weight of the gold bar that they weighed it at. Any lead and silver caught, they didn't really do too much here. They sent it over to this retreatment mill. This was a building. Now it's basically an outside museum. You guys are more than welcome to walk back there later. Basically, they bagged up the lead and the silver, sent it to a smelter plant called Selby, which is outside San Francisco, California, and there they would process the lead and silver and then just send a check back to the mine. So, we're still only at a 1-inch size piece of rock. We need to get it to sand. Once you crush rock to sand, it can't hide anything else from you, right? So all three major mines, the Alaska Juneau downtown, this one at Gastineau, and then the one on Treadwell, which is Douglas Island, they were all using mills to stamp or crush that rock to sand. So the way they did it here was kind of unique. They used tube mills. They didn't use those big stamping mills. They use more like tumblers here. So just think of a large cylinder, it'll roll. They put the rock in, then they need to put something else inside of the tumbler that's harder than the rock to crush it up, right? So they used Danish flint pebbles here at this mill. Danish flint pebbles are not native to Juneau. They came over on ships from Europe. They used these as ballast in this raw form. Well, when they got to Juneau, they didn't need their ballast anymore. They were going to carry cargo back home with them. They just dumped all these onto Thane Beach. Well, when the miners put these in the mill, they got very dense, super hard rocks. These flint pebbles crushed our rocks, and then we had sand. So once they got that sand, another level of those shaker tables down at the bottom here, and now that they could get all the gold, lead, and silver that they could. They did claim they had a 90% recovery rate here, which is pretty crazy. I don't know if that's true, but 90%, I know at the end of it all, they did 3.5 million ounces of gold out of here, 2.5 million ounces of silver in 1930, worth about $380 million. Today, worth about $6 billion. So, pretty incredible. Let me point out a few more things in this photograph. This guy up here, he was only 32 years old when they gave him the superintendent job of the Gastineau mill. That guy's name was Bart Thane. That's how they got the name of Thane for this beach down here. Basically, anything left over that didn't have lead, gold, and silver would go in these tunnels, and it was just making Thane Beach bigger every day by these mine tailings. So Thane Beach, Juneau itself, was basically built on old mining rocks. So, a few more things, guys. These buildings over here were called the single-man bungalows. Now, they would room an English speaker and a non-English speaker together in those rooms. In the early 1900s, there was over 70 nationalities here. This was a legitimate gold rush, so a lot of different people, a lot of different languages being spoken. English was the only language they allowed underground. So as long as you could learn enough commands, they would give you $1 a day raise. So basically, you know, run for your life, or she's gonna blow, right? So if you could learn that, you would get $5 for an 8-hour shift. So they did have 3 shifts on the mine, 3 8-hour shifts. And you get $4 till you learn English, you get $5. This right here was a 2-room schoolhouse. This was a mess hall. It sat 350 people. This is the only building still standing in the town of Thane. This is a machine shop, and it's owned by AELP, the electric company that runs Juneau. And it's basically right in front of me, and then 500 feet straight down on the channel there. They did have a post office, they did have a general store, and then these homes, guys, they did have 52 bigger homes in the peak of operation. Well, then World War II started. Once World War II started, they did start stripping this mining mill for parts. A lot of the steel and metal went to the war effort. A lot of those miners went to the war effort too. So a lot of this went back to nature pretty quick. Out of the 52 homes, they were only able to save 7 of them. 7 of them were put on barges, sent over the channel to the Douglas Island side, and people still live in those houses today. They're called the mill homes. So yeah, pretty cool. You guys have any questions about milling for me?
How many tons of ore did it do a day?
So, great question. So to get 1 ounce of gold, this mine is a low grade mine, meaning you had to do 16 ton of rock, 16 tons just to get 1 ounce of gold. They could do 2,200 tons a day in the peak operation. So they were getting multiple ounces of gold a day. Anything else, guys? All right, so our next stop, we're gonna go see a stamping mill, a real live working one. Just another way to crush up that rock. And then we're gonna pan for gold and find our own riches, all right? So let's head.
It was ran by John Pearson himself, his wife, and 2 daughters back in 1900 until 1928. In 1916, John Pearson passed away, leaving his wife and daughters to take over the stamp mill. Because of this decision, there were no new age women all across the country during this time period. So the stamp mill works is they would shovel up the ore, also known as rocks I'm standing on right now, shovel it back here into the hopper. It was activated by water back in the day. It's now activated by a motor. The water would flow through the flywheel right over here, activating these cams. The cams would go up and down, crushing that ore using the shoes inside of the machine. We'll turn it on for you folks right now to show you how it works. The stamp mill weighs about 300 pounds. It is 10 cents per minute, and it has 3 shoes across the bottom of it. Compared to the industrial stamp mill, which is 1,000 pounds, those do 98 cents per minute, and they have 5 shoes across the bottom of those. So back in the day, the industrial stamp mills were lined all over Juneau, and those would go 24/7, 365 days a year, besides the 4th of July and Christmas. During those 2 holidays, parents feel like their babies can't go to sleep because they're so used to the noise, so their solution was to go outside and bang on pots and pans to help them go to bed. Back in 2015, we took the stamp mill out of the Pearson Creek. We were able to restore it thanks to the U.S. Department of Forestry, and we were actually able to use it to stamp for gold using ore from the Kennington mine, just 20 miles north of Juneau. Last fact, this is the only working stamp mill here in the state of Alaska. Any questions, comments? All right, folks. We'll head over to the gold panning station. Hopefully strike it rich.
That's a good one. Hey guys, thank you. Please, come on in, come on in. Yep.
Yeah, get your.
Here you go, folks. Hold on to them, and we can shortly, okay? Come on. Just pick a spot and hold on to your pans, guys. Rick will guide us here. And you can hang up your bags if you need to. We do have hooks around if you need to hang your bags.
Okay. I can do that.
If folks have any children who need step stools or step stools underneath this station.
Come on, like I'm the only one that thought of that.
That's right.
Heated water. We're gonna retire off of this or no?
I wish. Okay, look like we got everybody at our panning table, folks. Let's see what we have for time. Yeah, we're right on schedule. I'm Rick. I'm born and raised from here. What you have in your hands are demo pans, folks, which is side you call waste material or tailings, just as it is in the tables. Where this whole hillside was all down, so if you looked at the picture, you'll see it's just a straight downhill. Now it's all filled in because there's so much tailings in here. That's what's happened over the years. What we're going to do is we're going to try and get this material out of your pans. Because if we go to what the miners had used back then, the big pan over here in the corner, we'll be here until next week. And I don't think we're going to stand here that long doing this. I don't know if the ship's captain will wait. So let's take and fill your pans with water. We'll do a little shake and dance with them. Don't dump them out, please. Just work that gold to sit down bottom. It's flex or placer gold as it's referred to, which we're going to be going after. Yeah. Okay, now that we've shook our pans pretty much, hopefully get our gold to the bottom, let's do that 45-degree angle to the surface of the water, folks. What we do, let the water do the work by washing material out at that angle to start getting material out of your pans. Don't continue to keep washing at that pace. Stop, reset your waste material, tailings back into your pan so we don't lose your gold out the bottom and go back to washing again. So let's see what we can do here. Yeah, shake it. Then we're gonna Wash it out. See how it washes out? We're gonna wash that material, get it out of there. Okay? Yeah, see? Look at this. See how it comes out of there? Keep washing the material out.
Apparently we're all fired.
So much for a career. Do you? Let's see. You want to get something? Yeah, it looks like it too. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What can we do with that?
Get a mansion.
Do you need help, Lily? Well, this one had a good load on this one. Oh. You are getting bad out here today. And it's probably going to work smart because we're
They're
supposed
trying to
to,
take your gold.
supposed to get warmer tomorrow next couple days. It's the upper 70s. Those mosquitoes are going to be out thicker and thick.
Oh yeah.
When I was watching the weather back home and the storms coming in.
Yeah.
We got tons of mosquitoes back at our place.
Yeah, with that heat.
Wisconsin.
Oh boy, yeah. You would do that.
Mosquitoes the size of B-52s,
Taking a shotgun outside, right?
the Oklahoma State bird is the mosquito.
See that?
That's funny.
See this?
Look at the gold.
Oh wow.
That gold?
We're retiring.
I'm retired.
We're retiring. We're buying a mansion.
Yeah.
See that?
I'm supposed to get some of that
Okay.
excess dirt out. Some of it.
Yeah.
Dump it all out.
Yeah.
Can I help you with your pen?
Oh, yep.
Can I help you so I get you a gold?
You got a sniffer tube or anything?
Mosquito?
Do I get any?
I did drink.
It's horrible.
You? All right,
Uh-oh.
don't run away.
I just threw something over there. Over to something in me. There's water in there.
Get the water in there. Take your pen, get that. Careful.
No, there's a huge portion of the water.
Is that what you're looking for?
Wow.
You don't put water or nothing. No.
What do you think? You gotta hold on to it now.
Yeah.
We're gonna collect that for you.
Oh, yeah, come on in here. You tell Mom you're gonna help pay for college?
Yeah.
Right? That'd be nice,
Need
right?
100 more, 1,000 more
that's it.
pans.
You want to see it? You gonna pan with us? Huh? Yeah, we could pan.
Wait, have you got any gold, sir?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I'm scared. I can tell. That's
Remember, your boy bought a gold dredge and wasted a bunch of money. Like $8 grand. That was a trip.
We'll make a good friend. Let's see what we have in here. Let's watch this out.
I'm making a net with that.
No, go ahead.
Or Rick, do you wanna?
No, go ahead.
All right, there's gold, guys. Little flakes. Oh, they got more gold than we. What's going on over here? He was just fast tracking it.
And one time, something like that.
Losing gold. Let's see it. This, I got a floater. You got her.
You lost it?
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
But I see gold like right here.
Yeah, pick it up with your hands, put it back in there.
See it right there, practically. Right there.
I'm sure a lot of people threw gold in there.
Dip it in like that.
No.
So you hung like your hands just like right here after. Kind of like that.
Let me see your gold, just to put it on, show them. Oh, wow.
I got a couple.
I feel like there's some other stuff in there too.
I got a couple.
You got a couple? Okay, let me see. Okay. There's a few different rocks in there. Where's the gold at? Did you get any gold?
Yeah. It's the last one.
Okay.
See, the gold is tiny.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got gold. We're retiring. We're retiring. Oh, there's
I don't know about everybody else, but
Old Prospect fans. Oh, come on, hurry. That's cool, huh?
But this is small.
We're gonna go to the general store real quick, just 2 seconds. See what they got in here. General store. I don't know if we have time though. He started the van. Oh, big old bowling balls. Wow, what's in here? Oh yeah. Got crystals in here, quartz, all kinds of stuff. Glass pendants. How much are those? Those are kind of cool.
46.
46. 99% pure gold, $40. Oh, it's probably gold flake maybe.
Hey, so, okay, found your reminder now, so I just have to ask you one question and I can give this out to you. What was your favorite? $7. I thought, how
If you haven't done this excursion, go do it. It's fun.
You want to stand up there and I'll take your picture?
The tax collector.
Can I take your picture? Stand over there.
Go to the cafe. Say cheese. Cheese. Say cheese. Say cheese. Do you guys have fun? Oh wow.
Is it good? Is it like cool thing?
I used to haul miners into the mines with this thing.
Miners were actually in here, dude. This is not a replica.
No, this is the real deal.
This is a real deal.
Look,
Yeah.
an old miner bar.
Yeah, let's go on the ground.
Go to work.
Wow.
Gotta get in here.
Did you like the first excursion? Yeah, okay. What about you?
That's very interesting.
Do I have you in the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you like the first excursion? You sure won your hard hat. You like it? Yeah. All right. Next one's next.